Hey there, friends. How are you all doing out there today? Me, personally, I've hardly been out of the house since Monday, and I'm shooting this on Thursday. We got dumped on with snow. We got a lot more than I think anybody ever expected for here. Ended up getting about 9 inches, which is record for these parts. Only thing I saw close to it was back in '73. And I've been thinking a number of just from things I've seen, over the past couple of days, being on social media and just being stuck in a house. I've thought about the subject of comfort food, and I get the concept of comfort food as most people do it, but I don't get the practice of comfort food, and I'll explain. I'll get in a little bit, explain what I mean by that. And once again, I'm not here to judge how anybody does anything, but I just kind of have noticed how things have evolved, fallen into place for me over the years. Some of the things that have just gone away, and I just don't. And once again, like what I'm talking about here for myself personally, it's not like fanaticism. It's not like trying to be perfect. I've just kind of gotten to a point where I don't want to eat stuff that is. You're eating it for comfort. It's called comfort food. But then I see people eating just some of the most ungodly stuff that I know how that's going to make me feel. I'm not even talking about, oh my God, this one meal obviously isn't going to wreck my long-term health. No matter what I eat, plant-based right here today, no matter what it's got in it, assuming there's no poison or anything in there, is going to absolutely wreck my health down the road. I'm talking about how it's going to make me feel after I eat it. Over the years, I remember years ago, many, many years ago, that's probably at least 7 or 8 years since I've done stuff like this, every once in a while on the weekends, and I would allow myself, and I wouldn't do it too often, and it would be kind of almost planned out, and I'd get a bag of nuts, and I'd, in the evening, I'd lay around in bed and watch Netflix or whatever I happened to be watching, and eat a little small bag of almonds or eat a little small bag of pistachios. And I knew that even at the time it was more, you shouldn't eat that on a regular basis, but I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. Just over time, that just kind of disappeared. I just don't tend to think like that. I just don't tend to crave that type of food. When I'm eating nuts, I have a purpose for them. I eat them like that. But like I say, it all goes back to I'm kind of soft when it comes to being sick, feeling good, not being bloated, all that kind of stuff. And I know how I'm going to feel when I eat certain things as compared to others. So for instance, I've been stuck in the house here for like 3 or 4 days. Haven't been to the grocery store, haven't bought any food since Monday. You might say not a big deal, it's only Thursday, but I don't really shop like that usually. Like, I'm always going by the store. Hardly a day goes by that I don't go to one of the stores in the area to pick up something, whether it's just like, I need a few more bananas. So I go by and pick up a few more bananas when I'm coming back from the gym or whatever. But I kind of paid attention, and I didn't really think we'd actually ever be stuck in the house, but I'm like, everybody was, going overboard in our area. And I said, well, just in case, this is the stuff that I eat. And I just bought a few more things of the types of foods that I eat on a regular basis. And like I said, as I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days, and especially after I said, well, let me do a video on comfort food, I started to try to think of, some of the things that maybe you could try to make when you do need comfort food, want to have comfort food, to make it a little bit less where a lot of times when people are having comfort food, something's going on anyway. They're sick, or they're a little depressed, or something has happened in their life. So you're already dealing with that. Then you're going to eat something, and then you're going to have to deal with the aftermath, and then probably the psychological and the mental, like dealing with the aftermath of getting super bloated, or your stomach doesn't feel good, or you feel sluggish or whatever. That's just going to bring your mood back down. So like I say, for me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm trying to think back over what was my comfort food over the last few days, and like maybe how I kind of pivoted. Because I'll tell you another one. I just thought of this, just popped up. I moved into this house about 3.5 years ago. When I first got here, probably for the first 4, 5, 6 months. And the year before I got here, when I was in my my old family home, I would from time to time get these little frozen pizzas, plant-based frozen pizzas. And, just after a while, they just didn't do that much for me. It wasn't so much like, oh God, this is horrible. Although it was just kind of a trade-off. I was like, it really isn't all that satisfying. I mean, it was good. I'm not saying it was even a bad pizza. It just really wasn't all this satisfying. But knowing how much saturated fat and how much sodium was in there really diminished the pleasure. And I just kind of said, okay, what's the purpose of that? I used to do that with these Jamaican patties, these frozen plant-based Jamaican patties. But the thing is there's so much, once again, so much saturated fat and sodium in them. Plus, doesn't even fill me up. That's just like eating something that's just for fun. Plus, I'm going to have to go eat something later. So I started thinking, like, how did I kind of just eventually, without saying I'm going to stop. I never said like, oh, I'm going to stop eating these certain things. Just, over time, one day, it just kind of like, I just didn't buy them anymore. And then I just didn't really think about getting them anymore. And even like like a restaurant, there's a good restaurant that I go to in Pensacola, and I still go there from time to time. But more and more, I just crave my food. I like my food. My food is not like, and I, honestly, because I can see how it looks, a lot of my food seems rather plain Jane, I do use a lot of seasoning, spices, stuff like that. But that's what I just like. I just had lunch right here. One thing I could maybe offer, if you indulge in comfort food sometimes, and then you maybe have that guilt, or you just want to do better when you're eating your comfort food, think about some of the healthy dishes you make. Think about some of the recipes you make that you like, that are actually really good for you and don't have a lot of that stuff in there. For instance, like going into this storm, I had a pot of lentil stew. Good stuff. Or no, wait, that was black bean, sweet potato. I make so many soups, but that was good stuff. That's comfort food to me, and all it had was whole foods in there. In fact, it wasn't like I was trying to avoid fat. The soup just didn't really need fat in it, so I didn't have fat in there. So it was all whole foods. What else? I had beans. I cooked a pot of beans the other day, so I simultaneously had a pot of soup, had some beans, had some rice, had sweet potatoes, so I just cooked all these different things up. One thing that I might recommend is, if you do want to kind of switch to healthier comfort food, maybe think about that recipe or that dish that you really like, and eat a little bit more of it than you normally would. That way, yeah, you're still eating more than you normally do, but you're probably, I don't mean like go just scarf down enough to where you're bloated and you don't feel good, but, just like start thinking like that, and just think about ways that you can just satisfy yourself and satisfy that comfort aspect of food without eating a whole lot of garbage. Now, when we get out of plant-based food, I see people like do stuff and I'm like, wow. And once again, not judging them, because a lot of that various things they do, I used to do. I used to binge. I used to get in a mood, or I used to be down, or I used to have whatever problem. I've gone to the grocery store before and bought a whole carrot cake, a half gallon of milk, gone back to the house, gotten out a spoon, and just started eating. No slices or anything, eating from the carrot cake and drinking. I've done things like that with ice cream. I remember I used to binge ice cream a lot in the past. And every time I ate those things, I felt absolutely horrid after it was over. So if I was eating it to deal with the problem, or if I was eating it to, just block things out for a while, that problem was still there. And now I don't feel good. Now I'm bloated. Now I just really, it just makes no logical sense. So anyhow, maybe if that's something that you want to change in this new year, maybe just think of some different ways like that. I'm just kind of trying to give you some of the ideas of what I do, because more and more, whether you agree with how I eat or whether I'm eating right or not, I make my decisions totally based on how I feel, totally based on what I'm getting, how much bang I'm getting for my buck. So anyhow, hope maybe this gave you a little something today. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Have a beautiful rest of the week, and I'll see you here again soon. Peace.